Good morning, everyone. It is our great pleasure and honor to welcome today's respected resource person, Dr. Joyjit Sanyal Sir, Assistant Professor in the Department of Commerce at Assam University, for the coursework lecture organized by Bhakta Kavi Narsi Mehta University. We are honored to welcome our respected resource person. He completed his MCom from Guwahati University with first class and later earned his PhD in the area of labor welfare and social security with over a decade of teaching and research experience. He has made a significant academic contribution through numerous publications in peer review, UGC Scopus, and Web of Science Index journals. He has presented more than 26 research papers at various national and international conferences and has delivered several limited lectures on diverse topics. As a dedicated researcher and mentor, he has successfully guided multiple PhD and MPhil scholars and continues to supervise their ongoing research. His commitment to academic excellence, research, and student development makes him a highly respected figure in the field of commerce and management. We are truly privileged to have such an eminent academician with us today. Now, I humbly invite to Sir and begin the insightful session. Please, Sir.
Thank you, madam, for a very generous introduction. So, I have not used this platform earlier, and I am unable to see how many actually research scholars are present in this, session. So, whether I can see the research scholars, or at least I can get idea how many of them are there.
No, sir.
Okay,
It is,
so there will
it
be
is
no
not
introduction.
visible.
That means.
No, sir. No. Only comment visible.
Okay, only comments are visible. Oh,
Ah,
it makes it very difficult because as I have already told you, this is not exactly the kind of platform that I have used earlier where interaction is not possible. So, anyways, thank you very much once again. So, my dear students, my dear fellow research scholars, I would say rather, because I am also a researcher, and obviously, this is a never ending process, as most of you are already aware of. When you have committed to take admission and conduct your research work. So, the topic that has been provided, yes, I can see some good morning now, and some names are definitely there. Anyways, I would have loved to interact with all of you, but that is not possible at this point of time, as I can see. I've been handed over 3 sessions, and I'll be taking your entire quota of sampling. So now I'm sure that since all of you are PhD scholars, you already have some idea about what sampling is and what are the different sampling techniques. But still, let us go in depth with the topic now and try to understand the entire thing. So first of all, I would also like to welcome all of you from the one of the, extreme corner of the country to the another extreme corner of the country. I presume there are a lot of, people who I also have some colleagues there in Gujarat. So I know that you are all very much fond of tea. चाय पीने में बहुत अच्छा लगता है. I know it very well, and most of the tea that you consume there in your part, it goes from this part of the country. So it's a lovely morning, and I welcome all of you once again. So now let me go on with the discussion. Uh, so a little bit issue with this slide, as I can say. Anyways, whatever be it, let me just explain you what some terminologies are there that we need to understand in the very beginning of the class. The first thing that we talk about when we try to understand sampling is the population. So what is the population exactly? Population indicates the entire universe basically of our study, that is each and every bits and bits of what we are willing to study, right? The problem is that when we talk about research work, it's very much a difficult task to take into consideration the entire population. I give you the example of this biryani paradox. Uh, I'm sure in that part of the country, mostly people will love biryani. So here we are, almost everyone is non-vegetarian. I'm sorry to say that, but on the other part, I'm sure that many of you will be vegetarian. So let us talk about some paneer biryani then in that case. So now, for example, we want to say we are a food critic, okay, and we want to understand the taste of the biryani in a certain function, or we have gone to a shop and we want to purchase biryani and have it. So, for the population, for this purpose, right? So, our population would be the every single grain of rice that is there in the biryani pot, the pieces of paneer that we talk about, and obviously biryani consists of a lot of masalas, right? So the problem here is that if you take the entire population and you want to give a proper feedback, we need to have the entire pot of biryani, right? Which is nearly impossible, I'm sure, right? It is a nearly impossible task. So testing the entire population is almost an impossible task in research, right? And for that purpose, what we do is the sampling. What is sampling? Sampling is a sneak peek. It is a sneak peek. It means that we select only a handful few of the entire population. Yes, there are definitely some ways of selecting this handful few, right? We'll be discussing that in the upcoming slides, definitely. But what does sample do? Sample resolves our issue, our problem, definitely, that we don't have to taste the entire pot of biryani. Because I'm sure if you taste the entire pot of biryani in a wedding function, for example, other people are going to be very angry that you have taken, I mean, you have eaten all the portion of the biryani and they are left with nothing, right? And secondly, I'm sure that you will not be able to, I mean, consume the entire pot of biryani. At one point of time, you're going to burst out, right? So I hope you understand the fact, right? And so that is why we have the sampling, right? So sampling is denoted by the small n, and the population is always denoted by the capital N, right? So why sample? Now, you can see over here the features we talk about. Why should we sample? Because we are human being first of all, and we have definitely limited resources. So when we talk about sampling, so the first thing is that population is large, infinite. It's very impossible to manage, right? The entire population. So we go to sampling or sample. Sample is small, it's a handful only, and it is manageable at the same time. On the other hand, cost. If you go to taste the entire pot of biryani, we have to pay 5 to 10,000 rupees definitely. But if you are going to only taste a few part of the biryani, it is going to cost you like 100 to 100 rupees. And definitely that is economical and suggestible at the same time. Time, how much time do you think you will be requiring? We know that the census survey is ongoing at this point of time, and it's a very timely, I mean, project. It takes a lot of time when you go for the census survey, right? So definitely we cannot go for census survey. It may be done in certain cases, but not always. As a researcher, we cannot give so much of time. We need to only take a lump of it and then do the proceedings, whatever is required. And for that, we require weeks or months, maybe, or maybe a year or so, right? And definitely, you are not going to continue your PhD degree for lifelong. You have a tenure in your mind that I have to complete my PhD work within 3 to 4 years. That is what is being practiced all over the country, right? Accuracy, absolute. Population, when you take the entire population, the results are absolute, definitely. It gives you a very proper result, right? There is no chance of biasness. But problem is that how much time do you have again? Very less time, right? So definitely you cannot go on with such kind of huge population for conducting the study. Sample, if you take sample, it is estimated. definitely it is smaller, and you have to generalize it wherever possible, right? So then, just a second. See over here this example, right? The vampire test, right? So, like for example, many of us go to the doctor whenever we feel bad, we suffer from something, right? So, imagine the doctor wants to test some your blood, right? So now, do you think the doctor is going to drain you out totally? I'm sure no, and none of you have faced such kind of scenario. I hope so, right? They will take only a vial of blood for making the test to find out what the deficiency may be in you, right? So if that is done, just imagine if the doctor wants to find out all the different deficiencies in your body and he has to drain out all your blood, right? He will come with a good conclusion, or maybe he will come with the same conclusion as it is the case with the small vial of blood that he is going to take out from your body, right? But problem is that if he drains out all your blood, you are definitely going to be cured, but at the same time you are also going to be dead, right? And that is why such kind of paradox is not being followed in the medical science. Also, you will see that they only take a sample of the blood, not the entire body's blood, right? So the problem again there is the representativeness and the bias. That is the bitter truth. Why do you talk about representativeness? Because what happens is that there is a chance that the sample that you are collecting, not in all cases, definitely in certain cases it may be there, it may not be there, right? Problem is that it is representative in nature, right? You are only taking a handful of it. Say again, you go to the biryani example, you are only collecting the rice from the top without the masala, and you have the rice and don't get the taste, you will rate it 0 out of 10 maybe, isn't it? So like in biryani, the masalas are at one point, the rice is spread on the top, right? The paneer is somewhere else. So if you don't take it in a proper mixture, you are not going to get a proper taste of the product or the sample that you are tasting, right? There is a chance that there is a chance of having some kind of biasness, right? So for a sample to be useful, it must look like the population. It should be exactly how the population looks like. If it doesn't, then definitely what is it? It is a sampling bias. So here you can see there is an example set over here. The Momo metric, the bias of student hangouts. Momo is very popular here in the northeastern part of the country. I'm not sure about its popularity in the other part of the country, in the western part. So imagine you want to know the favorite street food of all resident in your town. I do not know what is the favorite street food there. Well, I know about a little bit of dhokla, fafra. That is also available over here, and we love it over here definitely. So the bias sampling method, the shortcut that you talk about, right? Sampling is definitely something that is a shortcut method. Why it is a shortcut? Because we are not testing the entire population, right? So you can go directly to a popular street food stall clustered right outside the main gate of, say, your university, right? So at 4:30 p.m. When the classes ends normally. So and then you meet the first 20 people that you find near the Momo stall. What does the result tell you? Your study concludes with extreme confidence that 100% of city's population, including grandparents, bankers, doctors, all of them prioritize the Momo as their number one favorite food above all other. Is it true? I don't think so. Why? Because here there is a high chance of representativeness. Because where have you visited? First thing, you have visited a university or a college or an institution, education institution. At what time? At 4:30, 5 o'clock, or maybe 3 o'clock, 3:30, right? And who are going to be the maximum population or the samples there that you will find while you conduct your study? This will consist of 90% of the students maybe a little bit of bywalkers or some people moving here and there having the momo. 10%, chalo, pakad lete hai. So the problem is that you have concluded the study over here saying that 100% of the city's population, they like momo. But the truth is something else, because you have not taken all the different populations, all the different samples, right? So you can see the flaw, the reality check. Your sample only representative one very specific subset. What was the subset? The students of the college or the institution that we were discussing about. So hungry university students at their preferred afternoon hangout, specifically choosing momo. You ignored entire population of office executives, the office goers, or the families who might like some other maybe food items like your golgappa, then your jhalmuri, etc., etc. The commuters, the elderly population who might not at all like street food, right, at that point of age. So your sample was just one small non-representative cluster of student life. We had to generalize the data to the entire city. So is it correct? I'm sure no. Any comment from anyone? Or do you think the proper way to study is make a study to find out the the best street food available is to directly go outside a university or a college and collect the handful few who are eating the food item there? Any comment from anyone? Well, it's very difficult. Otherwise, if I can have some answers from all of your side, it will be helpful. Okay, then let me move on then in that case. So the summary so far, as you can see, what we have understood so far. So the capital N, it represents the population, the target of your curiosity, definitely, right? So who are your target basically? You are taking a study, for example, that study comes out because of certain problems, and the problems involve some population, right? So that is the target, that is the population for you, say the whole forest. Okay, then we have the sample, the small n, the group you actually talk to. It's a very small group that is possible. You cannot take the entire forest. For example, a specific trees in that forest. Then you have to have some parameters, right? What are parameters? Parameters are the factors which we are going to study in the population. The characteristics of the population, for example here is average height of all the trees, right? Then statistic, definitely you will be using some statistic for the purpose. It is the characteristics of the sample. Average height of 10 trees you measure. So you have taken 10 trees, right? So you measure the height of these 10 trees, and then you use a statistic for finding out what is the average height, right? So for example, there are 10 students in your class having different height, right? And you measure each of their height, you find the average. Definitely, I am sure you know what the formula is for that purpose. You add up all the height divided by the number of persons you have taken, and you get the average height, right, of the class. So this is how we usually proceed with the first the population, then the sample, and we study some parameters in this sample, and then we find out the result using some statistic. Any queries up to here from anyone? Any queries? Or do I need to repeat something that I might have missed? Anyone, please? If there are no queries, I'll be moving on then. Okay. Now, come to the next part, that is types of sampling. So usually there are two types of sampling that we discuss, and how we usually basically take up the samples using these two types of sampling. One is the probability sampling, the other one is the non-probability sampling. Why have I marked the probability sampling as fairness? Because there is high chances that each and every particular or population from, the population is, there is a chance that they will be picked out. But in case of non-probability sampling, I have marked it as convenience. The reason is very simple. It is convenience in the sense because the researcher, he or she, what will she do is that she will pick up the sample depending on his or her convenience. Yes, it's not wrong, right? And even there is high chances that we get a proper result out of such kind of study where we are using the non-probability sampling, right? We'll discuss that. Yes, here you can see the probability sampling, the fair lottery. Why is the probability sampling known as the fair lottery? In probability sampling, every member of the population has a known non-zero chance of being selected. It is the gold standard for avoiding bias. Most of us in our study tends to use the probability sampling. And why? Because it excludes the biasness. Right. Here you can see in this example over here, probability sampling, the fair lottery, everyone has an equal and known chance. So population, it's N, the NZS queue. So everybody over here is standing in a queue. Don't worry, when you will be going for any kind of study, nobody is going to stand in such queue beautifully and give you data. It's not going to happen. Collection of data is a different kind of a thing. It's somewhat difficult, I would say. I'm not discouraging everyone, but you will have a very good experience in the field when you exactly go and collect the data. Okay. So here you can see total group of interest, everyone with equal probability. So everyone in this queue has a equal chance that they will be selected for the purpose of the study, right? So this is the beauty of your probability sampling. It's a fair lottery. Everyone is getting the chance. So everyone is provided with some ID, right? And some of them are saying that I have come early, so I will get the chance, right? Someone is saying that I am a very experienced person, so I think they will select me for the survey. But in probability sampling, this doesn't happen. Whether you come first in the queue or you are very experienced person in any kind of field, right? Or you are a senior citizen asking for some kind of right, it's not gonna be considered, I tell you, in probability sampling, right? Here in the second frame, you can see that a lottery is being done, right? And you can see both the researchers, they are blindfolded. So you'll close your eyes and then select the samples. So biasness is totally gone, right? This is the beauty of probability sampling, as I was telling you. So in the last frame, you can see the probability sample, representative and generalized. Okay, selected, diverse, statistically strong sample. So 20 people were being selected, right? And the study would be considered now conducted using this 20 sample who have been collected using this lottery method. I hope this is clear to all of you. This is the probability sampling, the fair lottery. Okay. So what are the different types of probability sampling we talk about? The first one is the simple random sampling, the fish bowl method, right? So what happens is that I think many of you have taken part in extempore speech or some kind of competitions. So what happens usually that there are chits, some topics are written on that and put into a bowl, and you are asked to select the select the chits from the bowl, and whatever comes up, right? Whatever comes up, you need to speak on that. That is extempore speech that has been practiced, I'm sure about that. And all of you are aware of that also at the same time. So whatever topic you get, you have to speak on that, isn't it? Right. Similarly, over here, if there are 100 people in a, say, population is 100, okay, and you need to select only 20 people out of that. So you will write the name of each of these 100 people, put it in a bowl, and then one by one, what you do is you select out the names. And whatever name you get, they are considered to be your sample for the study. It's as simple as that. Even the name suggests you that it's a simple random sampling. I'm sure now you have understood the first method. I hope so. Then comes the systematic sampling, the rhythm method. So what happens over here is that you pick a starting point and then select every kth element. What is it exactly? Like, for example, there are 100 people standing in a queue. So what you do is that every fourth number guy or girl will be your sample. So fourth, 8, 12th, whoever is standing in this multiples of 4, say for example, multiples of 4, right? They will be your sample. The fourth, the 8, 12, 16, 20, and so on till it reaches the 100 point. Okay. So then comes your stratified random sampling, that is the layered pizza. So stratified sampling is something that usually what it does is that it takes care of any kind of discrepancies or any kind of limitations that are usually there in the earlier two methods. Okay. So in case of stratified sampling, we usually follow what? The strata. What is a strata? Strata is a smaller part of the entire population group, so that every part and parcel of the population is considered for the study. Say for example, you are since I gave the name like the layered pizza, so you can see over here I give you the example. So you want to know if people like a new pizza topping or not. So you don't just ask random people. You at least make sure to ask 10 meat lovers, 10 veggie lovers, and 10 pineapple on pizza haters to keep it balanced. Right. So you will consider all sorts of people, both veg, non-veg, and एगिटेरियन वट एवर बी, सबको मतलब बैलेंस करके लेना पड़ता है. उसी को हम लोग स्ट्रेटिफाइड सैम्पलिंग बोलते हैं. वी कॉल दैट एज द stratified sampling. So here you can see, for example, in this slide, just a second, chala gaya ye. So in this slide you can see there is numbering being provided for each of the strata. These lines indicate the stratas. Okay, so there are 4 strata over here. So from each of these 4 strata I will be selecting one. So इसमें भी हम लोग random sampling ही use करते हैं, but what we do is that initially we find out the strata. Say strata may be also done on the basis of age group. Say we are collecting some data regarding income and expenditure or saving habits among different age group, right? So what we do is that from 18 to 30 years we will consider one strata, from 31 to 40 years one strata, from 41 to 50 years one strata, and 51 to 60 years one strata. So we have 4 strata right now. So from each of these 4 strata there are, say, 20 people in each of these strata, and we are going to select only 10 out of this 20. So again we'll consider the simple random sampling, but here we are making an equal balance for each of the age group. That is the positive thing over here. In the earlier process, if we would have done the simple random sampling, right, what would have happened? Our representation from this entire population would have been somewhat biased in considering the age groups. So when you have selected using the fishbowl method, so it might so happen that the age group from 50 years were more is considered to 31 to 40 years, right? But in this method, in this stratified sampling method, we are creating a balance that we are considering at least proportionately from each of the age group. That is the positive of your stratified random sampling. Okay, I'm sure I hope you have understood this. This is very important considering that most of us, whenever we go to the field for collecting data, we use the stratified sampling technique because this is superior to the earlier two method. Any queries from anyone, please leave a comment so that I can help you in resolving the queries and so, right? Any kind of queries, please, anyone? Okay, so I think there are no queries so far. If you're understanding these things so nicely, it's very nice. And I hope you'll be able to utilize the stratified sampling technique as well. Because as I've told you, this is one of the most important probability sampling technique that is being followed to get rid of the any kind of biasness that might come up from the other techniques, basically. So then we also have the cluster sampling. So here, what happens in cluster sampling is that we usually divide the population into certain clusters. Geographic, for example, for the purpose when our geographical location for the study is very huge, right? So for example, if you are taking the entire of Gujarat, right, so there are different cities there in Gujarat, so it is very impossible, it is very much impossible definitely that you take up the entire state of Gujarat for the purpose of your study, right? So you will be selecting some geographical location depending on certain criteria, right? So then from that geographical location, we call this geographical location as the clusters. Okay. Like here in Assam, we divide it into Upper Assam, the Middle Assam, and the Lower Assam, right? And then we select people on that basis, or we may do it on the basis of different districts, right? That is also one way of, dividing the state into different clusters. Okay. So if you, for example, take a district, particular district, you may divide it into even cities, or if you're taking some villages, it may be divided into blocks. Okay, so each of these blocks, each of these cities, each of these districts, okay, they form our cluster. And from this cluster of population, in the second step, as you can see, we select the randomly select the cluster, and finally in the fourth stage we go to the sample, right? So I'll give you one example. We want to study the snack habit of college students, and there are, say for example, what happens is that maybe in and around, say, 10 different hostels. Okay, now it is impossible for me to visit all the 10 hostels because in each of these hostels there are 100 number of students residing on day-to-day basis, right? So 100 into 10 is 1000, and my research guide has given me a guideline that within 1 week I have to submit the paper, right, after conducting the study. So definitely it's an impossible task for me to interview 1000 people at the same time, right? So what I can do is that I can just select few cluster. Okay, say there are 10 as I told you, 10 hostels, so I'll be selecting, say, 4 hostels out of that, so that makes my population smaller, right? It will be like 4 into 100 is 400 number of students. So out of this 400, again, I'm not going to select and the entire 400. Okay, randomly I'll be selecting 10% or 20% or 30%, taking into consideration some method definitely, right, and take the sample. So say out of this 400, I am only selecting 100 numbers of students, that is 25 from each of the clusters or the hostels as we speak about, right? And they will form as our sample for the particular study. So it's little bit different when you consider it or compare it with the stratified sampling. Remember that. Okay, in stratified sampling we have strata. In the cluster sampling we have clusters considered. Cluster sampling is followed when the population is very large and when we want to divide it into smaller bits out of the bigger clusters. Okay, this is the big difference between your stratified sampling and cluster sampling. In cluster sampling, we don't consider it as a strata. We don't consider on the basis of age, working group, income group, etc., etc. We don't consider it in that manner. Remember that. Okay. Any queries regarding cluster sampling? Why did I mention it, the lazy traveler? Because it's very simple that I don't want to go to the 10 hostels that I talk about. So I am a lazy traveler basically over here. I have notified it as some terminology so that you can remember that. We follow cluster sampling when we are a lazy traveler and it's impossible for us to visit all the different aspects, all the different places, right? So that is the reason why cluster sampling is also sometimes known as the lazy traveler, right? We only take into consideration whichever is usually nearby to us, or at least to save certain amount of our time, right? So those were the different techniques that we usually use for the purpose of your probability sampling. Now we come across to your non-probability sampling. And as I have already told you in the beginning, it is a convenience method. And that is why it is sometimes also known as the shortcut method. Okay. So here the odds of being selected are unknown. It's faster and cheaper, but you can technically generalize to the whole population. That is the only difficulty when you talk about non-probability sampling. It's a shortcut technique. It's a shortcut method. Okay. So here, as you can see in the comparison over here in probability on the left-hand side of your screen and the non-probability on the right-hand side of the screen. Interestingly, you can see non-probability sampling, a person travels in a straight line. Why in a straight line? Because it is as per his or her convenience. The researcher is only going to collect data from those people to which he finds convenience in collection of data, to which he finds that it is easier for me to access them, right? Whereas in probability sampling, it is non-linear in nature. Why is it non-linear? Because everybody has got an equal chance of being selected for the study. Clear, everyone? This is the basic difference between probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Any queries from anyone over here? Well, I would like to have some comments by now because we are almost 50% done with the class, today's topics. Okay, thank you, Vaishali. There is something that you are not understanding, please do let me know so that I can clear the confusion. Or if I'm going too fast, please let me know about that also. Or if you require more examples, definitely I will help you out with that. Just let me, just give me the opportunity. It's a difficult scenario, as you can understand, because I can't see your faces and there is no interaction. Both side interaction, definitely, isn't it? This is. Even the slides over here that I uploaded, there are some issues over here. I've not used this. Actually, I'm not used to this platform ever. I've taken classes in Zoom and Google Meet as well, and even Cisco WebEx. But here I'm using it for the first time. So it's very difficult. Even the slides have changed after I have uploaded it over here. So anyways, let me come back to the topic then, if there is no confusion from your side or queries from your side. So what are the different non-probability sampling techniques that we can discuss right now? The first one is your convenience sampling. Okay. So what is the convenience sampling? It's very simple. You stand outside a gate. I mean, definitely not any gate. The gate from where you will be able to collect the data that I'm talking about right now, right? And then whoever comes out of the gate is your sample. It's as simple as it is. Okay. So, like for example, you just pick whoever is closest and easiest to reach. So a researcher, an example as you can see over here, a researcher who needs 50 survey responses. So what do? They stand outside the university canteen and harass whoever is walking out with a samosa in his hand. It's not representative, it's just nearby. मतलब सामने मिल रहा है. It is not representative, remember the fact. In case of your simple random sampling, it is representative because everyone had equal chance, right? But here, no, everyone is not going to have the equal chance. You are collecting data, whoever is nearby to you. See in the diagrammatic representation below over here, you can see, right? So the researcher is standing in the middle, the blue shirt guy, and जो भी सामने है इसके, whoever is standing in front of him, everyone becomes his sample. So in this manner, he will be collecting 50 samples. So this is the convenience sampling and the canteen strategy basically that we talk about, right? All the slides have changed. You can see, I'm really very sorry. Okay, so then the next technique is called the judgmental sampling. Okay, it is called the purposive sampling as well. Why it is judgmental? Judgmental because of the reason that the researcher has a lot of experience that whom to select or whom not to select. That is why it is called the expert snob. Okay, so what we do over here is that as a researcher, I'm not saying that these methods are wrong or these methods should not be followed, right? But the thing is that these are convenience method. This kind of method, especially the non-probability sampling methods, are to be followed when you know the population parameter, you know mostly about who your population or the samples are and from whom you will get accurate data. What happens in simple random sampling or in some of the probability sampling technique is that you may select someone, but you may not get the best answer, best responses that you were expecting to get from them. Okay, so this creates some kind of issues in getting a proper result from the study, right? So for that purpose, sometimes we use the non-probability sampling as well. So one of them is your judgmental sampling. Who judges? It's the researcher who is going to judge out as to whom I need to select as my sample. Okay, so for example, if you want to research the best beard grooming products, you don't ask people with clear shaven faces. But definitely, if someone of you is going to make a study on that what are the best grooming product, okay, man's product for example, right? So you will definitely not go to someone who has clean shave, right, face as compared to what I do over here. So I will be your sample, definitely not someone who doesn't have a clear shaven face, right? So the researcher, what he will do is that he will only take into consideration to them those who has beard, okay, not them those who do not have beard. So it is purposive in nature in that kind of state, right? In the diagram below, you can see over here that the blue shirt guy is only selecting certain people, okay, certain people whom he thinks that they are fit for the study and not everyone or whoever is nearby. How is it different from the convenience sampling method? It is different because in convenience sampling you just want to get completed with the persons, with the samples that is nearby to you. But in purposive sampling, you will go to the extreme end to those persons who you think are actually fit to be your sample, right? This is the basic difference between both of them. Okay, clear everyone? Any queries? I'm asking once again. I'll move on to the next method then. Okay, so then comes your quota sampling. So what is the quota sampling? So just like in the case of your stratified sampling, we have strata over here. Here we have quota. Okay. So you set a target for certain group, example 20 men, 20 women, right? And as soon as you collect that number, मतलब 20 लोगों से collect करना था, 20 मतलब 20 men, 20 female, right? So you have collected data from the 20 male and 20 female. You stop your survey at that point of time. Okay. Example, you need 10 gamers for a study. So many of you might be into gaming, ठीक है, mobile gaming हो या फिर PS, PlayStation, I mean, or Xbox, whatever be it. So you find first 10 people wearing the League of Legend t-shirt, one of the game, maybe there are a lot of games, right? So once you hit this 10, मतलब ये 10 लोगों से डेटा कलेक्शन कर लिया है, say for collecting the feedback on certain game, okay, how you like the game or not, etc, etc, okay, what is the quality of the graphics, okay, story, etc, right? So once you hit this 10 number, मतलब 10 जनों से collect करना था, so you have collected it. So you ignore the 11th people, 11th guy, even if that 11th guy is a pro gamer, expert gamer, right? You have eliminated him. Why? Because 10 collect करना था, हो गया है. अभी जो भी experienced आए ना आए, it doesn't matter to me at all, right? This is the limitation or the, I mean, the problem with your quota sampling again. Remember that, right? No doubt we are following just one thing, that हमारे पास एक कोटा था, ठीक है, हमें ये कोटा कंप्लीट करना है, बस वही बात है, ठीक है. But we are not considering that who is experienced, who is unexperienced. Like in the case of your judgmental or purposive sampling, right? What we have seen is that we are collecting data from whom we think we should collect the data. Here we don't do that. Here we are just trying to complete or reach a target number. That is the problem with this quota sampling. Clear everyone? Here you can see some diagrammatic representation of the same is also provided. Quota, male, female. So there are 60% male and 40% female. This is the entire quota. And I need to select only 10 out of them. So what I do is that sample size is my 10, where male is 6, that is 60% of, I mean, the total number, and 4, 40% of the total number, right? And once we reach the 6 and 4, we stop our survey over here, right? So this is the quota sampling. Okay, so next, as you can see over here, the snowball sampling, and we call it the cigarette society. Why it is called cigarette society, you will come across like when you go through the example over here. But before that, you can see over here, there is a researcher and he needs to collect data for certain study. Okay. And he knows only 3% in the beginning, right? So he will initially visit these 3 people, first of all, collect data from them, and then ask assistance from them that you give us name of another 2-3 persons who also can provide me data in the similar problem, right? So these people from whom you have collected data, they will refer you to someone else. You collect data from the referral, again they will refer you to some other samples. So you can see this process goes on and on, right? You can see over here example, you can see BlackBerry phones. I'm sure that BlackBerry phones are no longer available. If it is available, I have not seen it. It's very difficult to find people using BlackBerry phone in 2026, right? But what if there are some people, right? So what if there is some BlackBerry group, cigarette club, cigarette society of BlackBerry phones, even they are using right now? So what happens is that I am collecting data on the functionality of the BlackBerry or acceptability of BlackBerry phones in 2026. I need to find out at least one person who uses BlackBerry phone. I go to him, I collect data from him, then I ask him, do you know some other people who are still using BlackBerry phone? He tells me that, yes, I know two more person. I'll refer you to them. You can go to them. So I go to them after he refers me. And when I speak to them, collect the data, again, they refer me to another two-person. So in this way, it's a ongoing process now for the time being, right? Snowball, you know it very well how the snowballs are, right? So it rolls down and down from the hillock, right? So similarly over here, once you have collected data from one person, he or she is going to refer you to definitely some other person who knows about the certain group of your study. So in this manner, you are going to collect the data on and on till you reach the definite number that we are talking about. Any queries about snowball sampling? Anyone? Yes, any queries? Okay, thank you. If there are no queries, there is nothing much I can do. Okay, someone gave some message, but it's gone. I cannot see it from here. Okay, then comes the most important thing, that is the sample size determination. How do we determine the sample size for our research work, right? So far we have gone across what are the different sampling technique, what is population in the beginning, then how do we collect sample, or why should we collect sample, and what method should we use? Should we use the probability sampling technique or the non-probability sampling technique? If we select probability sampling technique, which technique of probability sampling should we follow? Simple random sampling technique, stratified sampling technique, or if you are following the non-probability sampling technique, which one should we follow? These were the deciding factor in the beginning. But now comes the fact that how we select the sample size, right? Determining the sample size is the Goldilocks moment for research. If your sample is too small, your results are unreliable. If it's too large, you have wasted time, money, and sanity, isn't it? So this is something which always gives us a lot of dilemma in the context that if you take a very large sample, it takes a lot of time for us to collect the data from this huge sample. It becomes a very difficult task sometimes. In the beginning, we have discussed that if our sample is too large, right? I'm not talking about population, mind it, okay? Even sometimes it happens that in certain research work, our sample happens to be very large. And when we go to collect data from this huge sample, it takes a lot of time. It may take years to complete the data, right? So it becomes very hazardous for us, expensive for us, right? So we need to be very aware of when we are determining the sample size. Again, on the other side, again, as you can see, if our sample size is too low, right, we cannot call it a generalized version. We cannot say that it is representative of the entire population, right? Even if we use a proper sampling technique, probability हो या फिर non probability है, जो भी है, whatever be it, if your sample size is too less, right, it becomes too representative. Okay, so it might not be giving you a generalized result. So definitely this is something which you need to be very cautious of, right? There are different your tools and techniques, right? Some models are definitely there how sample size may be determined, right? But before that, we need to also understand why it is very important, the Goldilocks rule, okay, the principle of sample size. So you can see over here this example, the too small sample. Okay, I will explain it with the help of your soup analogy. You take a tiny drop of soup from the very top of the pot. Right? So you have prepared some soup in a pot and you are just taking a tiny drop from the very top. Right? What it is actually, it is the oil, and you taste it. So what is your conclusion? Your conclusion is that the soup, the whole soup, I mean, okay, is oily. Is it true? Is it true? I would say no. Why? Because you have collected the oil from the top only, right? And considering the oil, you have tested it, and you are saying that your results are saying that the entire soup is very much oily, and you have not tasted the entire, I mean pot, definitely. So you have missed to capture the vegetables at the bottom of the your bottom of the pot sometimes, right? Just remember the example of the biryani paradox, right? If you're just taking 2 grains of rice from the top and then you are saying that it is less spicy, इसमें salt नहीं है, it is too dry, right? And you conclude that the biryani is not very good, right? So you are making an error. Remember that. Okay. Then on the second option, the too large sample. What do? You drain out the entire pot in your belly, in your stomach. Okay, to check the flavor, right? So result, you know exactly how it tasted. You have tested it, nice. But now you have no soup left to serve and you are too full to move. Definitely, if you have taken 10 liters of soup in your belly, you cannot even stand up, definitely. I'm sure about that. Right? And none of you are going to do that. That is the cause of taking too large a sample. Right? And the last one, as you can see over here, is the just right sample. So what do you need to do over here is that you need to stir the pot to get proper mixture of the soup that you determine to taste, right? So one well stirred ladle, that is the n, that is the sample that you talk about, it's enough to represent the whole pot, n, that is the population, without wasting the chef's hard work. So what you do, you stir the entire pot, you take one ladle out of it, you put it in a bowl, you taste it. Definitely, it is going to give you a proper idea, proper result of how the soup actually tastes in reality, right? So that is the Goldilocks principle. We don't need to go for too small a sample. We don't need to go for a too large sample. We just need to go for the right sample, right? This is what the Goldilocks principle tells us. Anything, anyone from anyone? Any kind of queries up till here? Okay, then let me move on to the next slide. There are 3 secret ingredients when we are calculating the sample size, and my dear students, be very much cautious about this. It's very important, right? To calculate the sample size, student needs to understand 3 variables. Just a second. Okay, to calculate the sample size, student needs to understand 3 different variables. What are those? First is your confidence level or the Z score. Okay, definition. How sure do you want to be that your result aren't just a fluke? I mean, you have to be sure, that since you are taking only one ladle of soup, right? You need to be very much sure that the entire pot of soup is also same taste the same as what you are tasting with that one ladle, right? Or when you are picking out some biryani, right? After properly mixing all the things, you need to be sure that it is representative of the entire pot, entire handi of biryani or entire pot of the soup, right? So, example, as you can see, imagine you are jumping out of a plane, right? So, what do you call that? Skydiving, isn't it? Yeah, skydiving, right? So, how much confidence do you think you have when you are skydiving, right? First case, 90% confidence. There's a 10% chance the parachute is actually a backpack full of rock. So when you are skydiving, you have a backpack that consists of the parachute, right? And you are 90% sure that उसमें क्या है, तुम्हारा पैराशूट एक्चुअली है और वो काम करेगा, right? But 90% na, so there is a 10% chance that your backpack consists of not parachute but rocks. So you have dived from the plane, okay, you have pulled the parachute, lekin parachute nahi khola. What will happen? You are going to crash down, probably break some bones, or you may be lifted up also. So that depends on the kind of scenario or the height you are jumping from. Okay. Then we have 99% confidence level. What is that? We have checked the parachute 3 times. Okay. मतलब before you put the backpack, you have checked it. 3 बार check किया है खोल के, हाँ parachute है इसमें. No, not only that. From the professional skydiver who is assisting you on the plane, right? You have made him sign that the parachute is actually there and it's in a working position. Then you dive down, right? And there is a high chance, only 1% chance may be there if you are, if God is not supportive of you, or if God wants to call you too early to meet him or her, whatever be it, right? So parachute will not open, but mostly in 99% confidence level, the parachute is definitely going to open and you are going to land safely, right? But as an academicians, what do? We usually go for 95% confidence level, right? Now, what are this confidence level? In the next class, I will explain you that and why. What is the justification or importance of selecting what the confidence level is going to be. Okay. Why 90%? Why 99%? Why 95%? I'll give you just a simple hint of it. When it's 90% confidence, usually the sample that we are going to select is going to be lesser. When it is 99%, the sample that you are going to select out of the entire population is going to be higher. Okay, it's going to be the maximum. And when it's 95%, usually we use 95% confidence level. Okay, in most of the social science research that we perform, that we do, हम लोग 95% ही लेते हैं. So 95% gives you almost a accurate figure or approximate figure that is quite helpful for conducting the research, and it is usually acceptable at the same time. Okay, as compared to the 90% confidence level, because the level of error is higher in that case, 10%, mind it. Okay, so there may be some chances that you may crash down with your research if you go for the 90% confidence level, devoid of the fact that you had the chance to take 95% or 99%. Okay, so any queries up to here? This is the first secret ingredient. We will now move on to the second one, the margin of error. Okay, it is represented by E. So example, the wiggle room, how much plus or minus are you willing to allow? Definitely plus or minus, that we have already discussed in the last slide. Funny example, you ask your friend, you have a lot of friends, I'm sure. So sometimes what happens is that you call them up, you have a meeting, or you are going for a movie, or you are going for a dinner, whatever be it, right? So definitely you fix some time. So you ask your friend, what time will you arrive? Two margin of errors are there, two ways of measuring that. One is low margin of error, the other one is the high margin of error. Low margin of error, I will be there at 7:02 p.m. You see the exactness of the time, 7:02 p.m. right? That means 7:02 को मैं exactly पहुंच जाऊंगा. So such kind of responses usually tells us that your friend is very much punctual in nature, and there is very less chances of him coming late to the work, right? So very precise, requires a huge sample or effort, definitely. So when you are looking for a study where, say, the error chances are going to be very less, सैंपल क्या होना चाहिए, थोड़ा बड़ा होना चाहिए, ज्यादा होना चाहिए. ठीक है. Low margin of error is usually is something that we compare with the 99% confidence level, remember that, or sometimes even the 95% confidence level. Okay, and high margin of error, what is it? Like the case of the parachute missing out, or the parachute being, replaced by some rocks. Okay, high margin of error. I will be there sometime between 7 p.m. and next Tuesday. You see the margin of error. Okay, today is Thursday, so we are supposed to meet at 7 p.m. on Thursday, but my friend is telling me that he will be there for the movie. Okay, from 7 p.m. of today till next Tuesday somewhere. वेरी इजी टू अचीव बट टोटली यूजलेस डेटा. मतलब टाइम तो मिल रहा है बहुत ज्यादा, ठीक है, इसमें लोग भी कम चाहिए इस स्टडी को कंडक्ट करने के लिए. लेकिन प्रॉब्लम क्या है? व्हाट इज द बिग प्रॉब्लम? दैट देयर इज नो डेफिनिटी, राइट, and the data may be also useless sometime, right? So this is the second ingredient that you need to look at. The first one is the confidence level, second one is the margin of error. Then comes the population variability. Okay, so what does it mean? The definition: how different are the people in your population? Okay, whether the population that we are going to study, are they homogeneous or are they heterogeneous? Okay, I mean, is it a mixture of different people, or it's the same kind of people coming within the same age group? Like, for example, you are all research scholar, right? So the variability is very low in that case, so we can take very few sample out of that, no problem in that, right? But if this lecture is being attended by research scholars, students from the post graduation department, some teachers, right, some clerks also at the same time, anybody who is interested in research, there is high variability. मतलब अलग अलग लोग है ना इधर अभी, right? So in that kind of scenario, the entire state becomes different. Remember that. So example, low variability, you are sampling a clone convention, everyone is identical, सब एक ही तरह का दिख रहा है, ठीक है? Like robots, सब robots है, ठीक है? You only need a sample size of n equal to 1, because all the robots are manufactured by the same company, एक ही configuration है. So why do you need to study all the robots? No, definitely I'm not talking about Galgotia University's robot. Okay, anyways, so here the robots are identical in nature, right? You select just one sample from that, right? It will serve your purpose. High variability, when you have different, like you can see, you are sampling a multiverse convention, और उस convention में दूसरे ग्रहों से भी aliens आ गए हैं, humans are there, talking shrubs, the grasses are also talking, right? So you see, you need to have a massive sample to capture all that craziness. You have to take some samples from the alien, some samples from the humans, and some samples even from the talking trees, right? So there is high variability. You need to consider all sets of population over here for the current purpose. Got it? So this is the third ingredient. So definitely, I'm sure all of you, even I am scared of formulas when it comes to, conducting study, right? This is something that looks like a lot of, what should I say, alien kind of a thing to me, even after so many years of conducting research. But the reality is that you have to go through some formulas to calculate your population size. So for the purpose of calculating population size, when it is large, definitely we use this particular formula, right, where n equals to sample size that we need to calculate. Z score is the confidence level. Okay, 95% confidence level, that is what we usually take. Okay, it may be 99%, it may be 90% as well. It depends on your preference, your kind of study that you are considering. So when the variability is low, you can go for even 90% confidence level, mind it, right? Because you don't need to go for too much of heterogeneous population. You are going for homogeneous, मतलब सब सेम है, एक ही तरह का है देखने में, या फिर एक ही तरह का लोगों को रिप्रेजेंट करता है, ठीक है? So usually you go for what, 90% confidence level in that kind of scenario. Here, since I've told you in social science research, most of us usually go for the 95% confidence level. So Z is usually 1.96 for 95% confidence level. P is the expected proportion. If you have no idea, use 0.5. Okay, P is what? 0.5 if you don't have any idea, right? Then E is the margin of error. Again, it is 0.05, right? And last, the lazy student rule. I don't say it's the lazy student rule, but in reality, it is actually the lazy student rule. So when it's very difficult to measure the population variability, we assume the population to be 50%, variable in nature, and that is why we take it as 0.5. That is the P that we talk about. This gives you the largest, most conservative sample size to ensure you are safe, right? So, for example, I give you one model. We have the Kretzi Morgan model, right? And it is usually taken for unknown population, infinite population. So whatever the population size may be, our sample size in the extreme level, when you consider it at 95% confidence level and at 5% level of error, right? The number is always 383, 84. It is always 383 or 84. That means even if your population size is more than 1 lakh, right? Your sample size will always be 383. Remember that. Understand, if you're following that model. Definitely, if you're selecting that model, in that case, you have to provide some, some justification why you are following that model. Remember that. When we do the sample size selection, हम मॉडल कुछ सिलेक्ट करते हैं. जब वो मॉडल सिलेक्ट करते हैं, जस्टिफिकेशन देना जरूरी होता है. It's very much mandatory because in your research methodology, your guide, your research advisory committee, your department representative committee, or whatever the committee is, they will definitely, when they sit for the seminar presentation, they are going to ask you that why have you selected this model and on what basis you have selected the samples, right? It's very important to know this fact. Remember that. Okay, so okay, this I've done. The practical constraint. Okay, what is the practical constraint? Even if the math says you need 2000 people, reality might say no, right? Why? The constraint you see and the academic dream that you need to achieve and the real world nightmare. Money. I have a massive government grant. Unless otherwise, your study is being funded by some agencies like the UGC, ICSSR, or by your concerned university, or by someone, right? You don't obviously have so much of grant to usually, yes, I can get some comments. Thank you very much once again. So definitely you cannot just continue the study in that manner, considering the fact that you are all, right now into research work. So many of you might not be even working somewhere as a professional. So you might have very limited fund to fund your proper study, right? And when you are doing your research work, collecting data from the field, what are the things that you have to do? You see, for example, apart from, chalo, aajkal most of us uses the Google form or the monkeysurvey.com for collecting data online. But remember, it is always suggestible that you collect at least 20% of the data on face-to-face basis, on offline mode. Remember that. Why? I will tell you tomorrow, not today. But even when you are going to collect data, whether it is primary data or secondary data, you need to move from one place to another. There are a lot of expenses. Remember that, right? When you are going to collect some data from some rural areas, it is impossible that they will be using any kind of Google form or something like that. So you have to move there. You might also have to hire some enumerator. You might have to hire some field investigator. Sometimes that is the case, right? So what happens is that you need to spend a lot of money. And how much do you have? That is the question. Until and unless you have some funding from some agencies, it's impossible. And definitely your supervisors are not going to fund your study, right? Even I don't do that, and none of your supervisors are also going to do that, right? So anyways, so real world nightmare, I have 500 rupees and a coupon for free coffee. बस उतना ही है मेरे पास. So how do I continue my study with this much, right? Time, I have 3 years to collect data. So yeah, you go on collecting data for 3 years. Before that, you do your coursework that you are doing right now, right? After that, you appear for examination, you prepare a proposal, you have all the time in the world, right? You don't want a job, you don't want to do anything else than research. You are a dedicated research scholar. Yeah, definitely 3 years for collecting data. Fine, go on. But what if your HOD or your supervisor tells you, no, I want the data, I want the report by Monday next? You just have 3-4 days in hand in that case. So you don't have that much of time that you are thinking about. Okay. Attrition, everyone will answer my survey perfectly. That is never going to happen. I tell you, wherever you go for collection of data, even when I was doing my research work in the central public sector enterprises in Assam, I had to visit, some of my samples twice, thrice, and four times sometimes, and even they did not give me the, the survey results. Give me back my questionnaire that I submitted to them for getting the, your responses. So it becomes a, the initial stage. What happens is that you might think that no, everyone is going to give me the data, everyone is going to give a response to my survey, but that doesn't actually happen in the real world, right? Whether you are sending your Google form link to someone might not, your some of your respondents might not even open that, just directly delete the link. I'm telling you, right? So that is the actual thing that is going to happen. Half the people will block my number or mark it as spam, right? So that is what actually happens. It's a difficult task. So you need to have some proper idea of how many people I can go and interact, how many people, how many sample, I'm going to visit and actually collect the data, or from whom I'm going to get it. As in the earlier example, using the KM or the Kretzi Morgan model, as I told you, you might have thousands of your population, but you will be definitely only collecting data from 383 if you are considering 95% confidence level and 5% level of error, right? So that wraps up our study. That is enough for the purpose. But how do you collect this 383? Using probability, non-probability, which technique out of those things? That is something you need to decide with your supervisor, right? So we are coming to the end of today's class. This class was supposed to be of 2 hours, but unfortunately, since there is no interaction, this is the most difficult thing. So I am running out of my slides by now. If it had been an interactive class, both way interaction, it would have gone longer, right? So summary for the class: more diversity, it needs a bigger sample. Diversity means when you have people from different background, different demographic factors, age, gender, income, right? बड़ा sample तब चाहिए होगा हमको. More precision, you need accurate data, accurate results, bigger sample. More confidence, like 99% or 95%, bigger sample. Less money, ये तीन चीजें चाहिए लेकिन पैसा कम है, you are going to have to settle for a higher margin of error. 10% of marginal error means that your parachute might not work, or it might not be there in your backpack, and you fall down and break your legs in the research technique. Okay, this is what is going to actually happen. So think about it. What should be my margin of error? What should be my confidence level? So with this, we come to the end of today's discussion. There is two more topics remaining that we'll be discussing tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. That is the slot that has been provided to me for tomorrow's class. So thank you very much. Any queries? I'm open to answer right now. Yes, any queries from anyone? Is the administrator there in the meeting right now? What was her name?
Okay, thank you, sir. I would like to conclude today's session. I sincerely thanks Dr. Joyjit Sanyal for sharing his valuable knowledge and insights, which have made this session truly enriching and meaningful. I also extend my gratitude to all the participants for their active presence and engagement. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you, Madam Riddhi. Thank you very much. So tomorrow I'll be having another session and I'll be concluding the topic that has been assigned to me tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. So can I now leave the meeting then? Leave the lecture?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Dear students, see you all tomorrow then. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.